Okay, hi everyone. I want to welcome you out to our Healthy Habits webinar tonight. Thank you so much for coming. I'm Charlene Anderson. I'm the wife to Scott Anderson and the mother of our 4 children, and I love to run. I'm so excited to share with you my story and a few of the habits of health that have drastically changed my life. It is my desire that you will take one of the new habits or something that you learned tonight, and that it will be able to help you in your life, or you'll be able to share it with someone else and help them. That is what I'm passionate about, is sharing what I know with other people. Because this has changed my life so much for the better, I want to change everyone's lives if this is something that can help them. So let me start with the beginning. At the beginning of this year, I was setting my New Year's resolutions, and I had 3 big resolutions. The first one was to have a healthy body. The second one was to have a healthy mind. And after I achieved those, then I felt I could confidently plunge into my next goal, which was to get pregnant and to have more children. So I gave myself a deadline of June of this year to get a grip on my health and to get healthy in my body and into my mind. I said that if I don't have a grip on both of them by June, then heaven had better help us all, because I'm going to get pregnant anyway. And that was kind of scary, but I really felt that that's what I needed to do to be able to achieve my third goal. So, healthy mind. I had been struggling with a lot of negative thoughts and emotions for several years. I had been happy on the outside, but angry and sad on the inside for way too long. I'm hoping that some of you can relate to that. I didn't like it. In fact, I even hated myself for it. I struggled a lot with my self-confidence and my self-esteem. Just simple things like getting up in church to share my testimony or to say a prayer would bring on a lot of anxiety and panic. I remember one time I raised my hand in class in church, and I just remember shaking and being so scared and having such a hard time putting my words and thoughts together to make sense with what was going on in the lesson. Another problem I had is I was tired all the time. I'm a homeschool mom, and the most challenging thing that I did every day was sit down and read to my children. Why was it so difficult to share with them reading, something that I love to do, and I love books so much? Why was it so hard for me? It was because I would fall asleep, like every time. It was really hard. It was killing me on the inside to have such a big struggle with this. Thankfully, my children, though, they were great. We now have many stories to tell of mom falling asleep while reading to them. And that's really fun, some of those stories. But at the time, it was really hard. Healthy body. So soon after the new year, on January 15th, we bought a scale. And we weighed ourselves, Scott and I, my husband and I. I weighed in at 152 pounds with a BMI of 25. After Googling and learning exactly what a healthy BMI is, I discovered that I was borderline overweight. That was very difficult for me to wrap my mind around. I had always considered myself a healthy person. Being physically healthy was important to me. And I thought, well, I just ran a half marathon in June. Why am I borderline overweight? It didn't make sense to me, and it was difficult and it was confusing. I had been eating mainly a plant-based and a whole food diet with, a few exceptions. Everyone has their cheats, right? I'd been doing that for about 2.5 years. So I was really wondering, how did this happen? How did I become borderline overweight? And how did I become so unhealthy? I knew that the numbers weren't lying because I knew that I didn't have big muscles to support those kind of numbers. So I knew that there was a lot of fat on my body, and that was really hard. At that time, I had gained 20 pounds since having my last baby, which was over 4 years ago. I knew at that moment that if my mind didn't get healthy, that my habits would lead me to becoming overweight and eventually obese. I knew that I loved running and exercise, and they had worked for me to lose weight after my previous pregnancies. So that's what I did. I started running. I was running in January and February. In the beginning of March, I was running 3 times a week. And I was also participating in that Beachbody Insanity workout DVD. I was doing that 3 times a week. And I went to yoga once a week. And on the days when I could do 2 exercise routines, like running and yoga, or insanity and running, I did it. I was working out really, really hard and trying as hard as I could to cut back on my calories. And I didn't make a lot of progress. I lost 8 whole pounds, and I was pretty excited. And then I was discouraged too, because I was trying so hard and cutting back so much and working so hard, and I wasn't getting healthy fast enough. I was getting scared at the beginning of March, when I knew that June was only 3 months away. I was halfway there, but not very close to my goal. My mind was still not healthy. My mind was still very unhealthy. Even though I had lost the 8 pounds, my mind wasn't healthy. Let's see, to say that it was hard would be a big understatement. My physical and mental energy were so low that I often found myself curled up in a blanket and napping on the couch for 1 to 3 hours. And this happened before this year too. This has been going on for a very long time. I quickly discovered that when I did my workouts in the morning, that it would give me enough energy to get through the day, as long as I didn't sit down, that is. So even with the energy that I gained from exercise, I would still fall asleep while trying to read to my children. And that was very difficult for me. In the evenings, once the kids were in bed, I'd crash on the couch in front of an electronic with my dark chocolate or my ice cream, because I felt I had earned it. When my friend Amber contacted me and was asking me about my health and my goals, I was terrified. I started crying and I said, I can't do this. I can't. I'm not strong enough. I don't trust myself. I don't trust myself to follow through with the things that you're asking me to do, with the habits that you want me to change. I don't trust myself. And I just remember being terrified and scared and crying. And I know that she remembers, because I typically am not an emotional person when I'm myself. Like I have not been emotional, but that was very emotional for me. And I said, I don't trust myself. You know, I opened that up to her and I just said, I just don't trust myself. I don't trust myself to do this. And she said, do you trust me? And I said, absolutely. Yes, of course I trust you. We've been friends for 8 years and she's trusted me with things. And so of course I trusted her. And she said, okay, then trust me and let's do this. You can do it. And I was like, okay. And so with shaky hands and a weary heart, I took that leap of faith. And oh my goodness, I have not regretted it for a minute. I am so glad that I took that leap of faith, because today I'm the person that I've always wanted to be. I am me. I'm Charlene Anderson. This is the person that I'd forgotten about, that I didn't know was here anymore. This is the person who I can now sit down and read to my kids. I can read them chapters and chapters and chapters, and I don't fall asleep. I don't get tired anymore. And that's so important to me. This morning, okay, so the last several nights, I've had about 6 or 7 hours of sleep, which is normal for me. I have a very hard time sleeping for 8 or 9 hours, because I just have so much to do and so much that I want to do. And so sleep is something I've always sacrificed. That's a bad habit. I know it's a bad habit that I have. But after only having 6 hours of sleep the last 3 nights, I was able to get up this morning and read in my scriptures without falling asleep, without getting tired, and like actively study them. And for me, that is huge. I have not been able to do that for my whole life. My whole life, I've never been able to read and study without getting tired and falling asleep. I feel great. I have a lot of energy and I'm happy. And my mind, those bad thoughts that I was having and the doubt and the negativity that I had in my mind previous to the healthy habits that I've developed. It's gone. And I can now do things that I've always admired other people for doing. I can do things that I've studied about. Public speaking, I've been studying since I was in junior high school, and debate. And I just love listening to public speakers. And now I feel like I can take those things that I've learned from watching other people for so long, and I can do that. And I can apply those things to my life. My mind and my memory, they're what I've always wanted them to be. And it's because of these habits that I am me, and that I am able to share them with you. And I hope that there's something today that we're able to teach you that you're able to take away, and it's able to change your life for the better. Okay, so next we have my husband. So my husband was my first guinea pig, and I love him so much for it. I love him for more than being my guinea pig. Not only did he have to live with the old me, but he saw me through all of it, and loved me through all of it. And I just appreciate him so much. And I'm so grateful to him for his love and his support and his kindness, and for loving me and sticking with me through the hard times, because I know that I've given him a lot of hard times. That's a fact. So he was my first guinea pig, and I taught him some of the healthy habits that my friend Amber taught me. And these pictures are just some of the physical results of his healthy habits that he's developed in his life. He was able to lose 20 pounds, and he also has more energy, and he is doing things all the time. He's painting some doors that we've wanted to paint since we moved into our new home. Today he went around and sprayed for the bugs, and these are things that he's always wanted to do and talked about doing, but didn't have the energy to do. And now he's got the energy to knock off some of those things on my honey to-do list. Thanks, babe. So that's a little bit about my husband and his journey. Next, we're going to go to Amber Taylor. I think that she's on the line. Are you there, Amber?
I am. I'm here. I'm so glad you're you now, Charlene.
Thank you so much.
I'm proud of Scott too. Way to go, Scott. You're awesome. So I just wanted to start by telling you a story about a little girl that I know and have come to love. And by the time this little girl was 5, she had been molested by two different adult family members. And ironically, that's about the time where she started to develop this scared, sick butterfly feeling in her stomach all the time. And she also developed this habit, kind of a nightly ritual of asking her dad to come in and tuck her in, make sure her bedroom door, her bedroom window was locked, and listen to her prayers. And she couldn't sleep without going through this nightly ritual. And she also always slept with her thumbs tucked tight down inside her fists, because she had heard somewhere that hitchhikers get rides by sticking their thumbs up like this. And so she was terrified of being kidnapped, and so she would sleep with her thumbs tucked tight in her fists, and she couldn't sleep without this nightly ritual. And so you can imagine how scary it was for her when suddenly her dad started to change. He started to become abusive, and her mom and dad started to fight a lot. And one day at school, this little girl's friend came up to her and said, I can't be your friend anymore. And this little girl said, well, why not? I haven't done anything wrong. Why? And she said, well, because my mom and dad said that your mom and dad are getting divorced, and so we can't be friends anymore. And this little girl didn't even really know what the word divorce meant. And so she grabbed a classroom dictionary and looked up the word divorce, and realized that it meant that her parents' marriage was coming to an end. And so she went home and found out that was true, and that her family basically was being destroyed. And so she ran to her room and slammed the door and threw herself on the bed and just asked God to take her home, because this was too scary, and this was just way too hard. And so God answered her and said, "You are my daughter. I am your father, and I will never abandon you." And this little girl didn't even know there's another word that this girl didn't know the meaning of. But that comfort and that peace helped her and gave her the strength to endure that trial and future trials in her life. And when it was the day that her dad did leave, I think it was the next day, he came in to say goodbye, and she wrapped her arms around his neck, and she just wouldn't let go. And he, had to pry her arms off. And as she sat on the porch, she felt the definition of the word abandon, and she got angry because it was just easier. And she blamed her dad for the divorce, and she tried to punish him for the pain that she was feeling inside. And she started to realize that eating was very comforting for her. And in addition to her being an early bloomer, she started to feel fat at a really young age. And not long after her parents' divorce was final, her mom remarried, and she was bound and determined to punish her dad for the hurt that she was feeling. And so she started using her stepfather's last name. And as it turned out, that played right into her stepfather's motives. After a few years of walking in on her when she was going to the bathroom or bathing, her stepfather eventually tried to rape her. And she was able to fight him off because her stepdad had polio. And so at the age of 11, this girl's legs were stronger than her stepdad's. And he began immediately to emotionally abuse her. He told her that he didn't want her anyway, and that no one would ever want her or love her because she was too fat. And the very next day at dinner, he walked in and looked at her dinner plate, which had a normal portion of food on it, and said, "If you keep eating like that, you're going to blow up to be like the Goodyear blimp." And so, are you surprised that she developed an eating disorder? At first, she started trying to make herself throw up, and she felt like a complete failure when that didn't work. And so she just started starving herself. She just stopped eating. And she started to lose weight. And a lot of people started to notice. And her stepfather told her that he threatened her and said, "If you ever tell anyone, I will make your life a living hell. And if you don't stop starving yourself, I'll throw you in the hospital and have tubes shoved down your throat and have you force fed." And that just made her resolve all the stronger. And she started to play soccer, and in a lot of ways that was therapy for her. Except that she quickly exercise became an obsession for her. And all that exercise, it only increased her appetite. And so she started to binge eat. And she would starve herself all day and then after soccer practice, she would come home and binge. Thankfully, her mom left her second husband and married a complete angel who, in a lot of ways, was a vehicle for escape for this girl. But the eating disorder followed her. And when she was about 16, her mom got really sick, and they weren't sure what was wrong. They thought maybe it was cancer. And that old, familiar, scared, sick butterfly feeling in her stomach just reared its ugly head again. And the girl was terrified because she had a horrible relationship with her dad. She had tried so hard to kind of, distance herself from her dad for so many years. And so she just was terrified about what was going to happen to her and her siblings if her mom passed away. As it turned out, her mom didn't have cancer, but she was diagnosed with something that was worse in some ways. She was diagnosed with lupus, which is a chronic autoimmune disease. And in some ways, she felt like she lost her mom anyway, because little was known at that point still about lupus, and there was not a lot of great treatment. And so her mom was bedridden a lot of the time. 3 months later, the girl came home, and that sick, sad, scared feeling in her stomach told her right away that something was really wrong. Her family was sitting in the living room waiting for her, and they were all crying. And indeed, something was really wrong. Her dad had committed suicide. And at first, she was angry again. She felt abandoned all over again. But at the same time, deep down inside, she felt like it was all her fault because she had been so angry at her dad for so many years, and had been so mean to him. And she had tried to make him pay for the pain that she felt herself. And she buried all of those feelings, all of those negative feelings, all the pain alongside the pain of her abuse. And she just buried it all away. And so, are you surprised that 2 months later, she was diagnosed with depression? And she felt she didn't want anybody to know. She didn't want anyone to think that she was crazy because she had to take medication. She didn't want anyone to think that she was going to commit suicide like her dad had. And so she tried desperately to appear perfect. She was in student government. She was on the high honor roll. She was English Sterling Scholar. And she married her high school sweetheart. And she thought all of her dreams had come true. And but as she started eating regular portions, which her body wasn't used to because she hadn't done that for years, she started to gain weight quickly. She was terrified. Subconsciously, she remembered what her stepfather had told her. And she was terrified that her best friend and her new husband was going to not love her because of the weight that she was gaining. And so she was relieved when she became pregnant quickly, except the weight gain, that gave her an excuse for the weight gain, but she was borderline gestational diabetes with that pregnancy. After the baby was born, she just couldn't bounce back. She was exhausted all of the time. She couldn't get the weight off, and she started to lose her hair. So not only was she overweight, but now she was going bald. And so that did not help her fear of her husband falling out of love with her. She was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And again, she felt that she was damaged. And she felt less than, and she was bound and determined to not let this rob her of the life that she'd always dreamed of. And so she set out to prove that nothing was wrong with her again. And she did take her thyroid medication, but she also started dieting and exercising 6 days a week for at least an hour and a half every day. And she carried that routine on through her second pregnancy, and which was completely opposite of the first. In fact, doctors were concerned that she wasn't gaining enough weight with that pregnancy. 2 weeks after the second baby was to be born, her husband moved across the country for podiatry school. He'd been accepted a year earlier than they had planned. And so for the betterment of their future, and not wanting to delay his education, they chose for him to go ahead and start his schooling. And it was too close to delivery for her to travel with him. And so she delivered their baby without him, without her best friend. And although in her mind she understood that it was all okay, it was all going to work out, emotionally she felt abandoned again, and she felt alone, and postpartum depression set in. As that night she spent the night in the NICU, she just felt this overwhelming sense of dread and helplessness, and like she had no control over anything in her life. 3 weeks later, with her newborn and her 1.5-year-old son, she moved across the country to a new culture, new life, new home. And she felt like her life had been physically turned upside down. And that scared, sick, butterfly feeling in her stomach became so intense that she actually checked herself into the ER one day because she thought she had appendicitis. After running tests, the doctors couldn't find anything wrong with her, sent her home and said, "Take some Tums, I think you have IBS, irritable bowel." And the symptoms did not go away. They didn't subside at all. And so after doing some studying on her own and discussing it with her husband and going back to the doctor, she was diagnosed with anxiety. And again, she felt broken and damaged and like she was not as good. And Later during her husband's residency, the abuse of her childhood resurfaced, and she found it difficult to trust anyone, even her husband at times, because as she was having flashbacks, people that she should have been able to trust, she remembered did things that hurt her. She found an amazing therapist, and through therapy and through the atonement of the Savior, Jesus Christ, she was able to find peace and heal, but she still had not been able to give up that addiction to food. She still was using food to comfort herself. And so to compensate for that addiction, she started running. She started running marathons. And around that time, her husband had started his own business. And the stress of that was so suffocating to her that she was in this vicious cycle of binge eating and strenuous exercise and then discouragement and depression. And she was just stuck in that vicious cycle. Well, in August, I started down a different path. I've lost 40 pounds and over 30 inches, but I feel like I'm free. I feel like I am able to dream again, and that I'm not a slave anymore to food. I'm not a slave to my depression. I'm not a slave to anxiety, and that I have the tools. And I want to use those tools to help other people, and who themselves want to be free and want to be able to dream again. And that is what Take Shape for Life has done for me.
Wow, you guys, my name is Chantel Flake, and I actually work with these amazing ladies, and you've heard 3 incredible stories tonight. And I just hope that you are so inspired. I have been a health coach for about 4 years, and I'm just so excited to be here tonight to just with Charlene and Amber, just to share this amazing program. As you can tell, it's much, much more than just a number on a scale or a diet or all these things. I feel like that is so secondary. We're focusing on healthy mind and healthy body and the healthy lifestyle. That's really what we teach. So I won't go too much into my story because of time, but I just wanted you guys to kind of think about what your own story is. You know, what is, if you could have optimal health, what would that mean to you? And, you know, hearing all these stories, what would your story be? What have you struggled with in your life that you would like to overcome? These ladies have shared so many things that really you can overcome anything if I've learned anything from tonight. So just kind of going through, just for a minute, think about that, and maybe even grab a piece of paper and jot a few thoughts down. And I know that, you know, the person who invited you to this webinar would love to hear your thoughts on this. And they would love to hear like how they can help you and how they can help you move forward and what your dream is. So kind of think about that. I'm just going to give a few basic overview. We'll just wrap up here in a couple minutes, but I just wanted to tell you that all this information is found, is basically, if you just talk to the person who invited you, they can kind of give you more information about all these in detail. I'm just going to give you an overview of a little bit of the program that we coach for, Take Shape for Life, what we have to offer, and how we focus on the whole picture versus just kind of a smaller portion. And there's 3 main parts to it. The biggest part is support. Knowing that you have that support, there's so many different ways. I won't go into all of them. You can talk to your health coach and they can kind of go over that. Education. It's all about the mind. Sometimes we say losing the weight in between your ears. That's the most important weight that you lose. And gaining that knowledge so that you know how to be able to keep it off long term. And then just making sure that the program that you do is very simple and safe. I don't know if you've heard, eating 6 smaller meals a day is the healthiest way to eat. We teach that full-heartedly. And you can kind of talk about what would fit in your schedule with your health coach, because a lot of people, that's hard to get that in. We have lots of secret weapons and meal plans to help make that possible. But without going into too much detail, just talk to your health coach. And these are just some more of the stories. You've heard so many tonight. These are my personal friends and family, and some that these ladies know as well that are health coaches and also just our friends that we just love dearly, that I could spend hours telling their stories, and they mean so much to me. But just so you know, these are real transformation. These are real life. This isn't just, some Photoshopped image. This is, so much is happening here. This is just simply a picture, but each one of these people have a story just like Amber and Charlene. And a few of you got on to kind of hear more about paying it forward. So I would encourage you to talk to your health coach, and they can give you more information about that. And passing on this gift. Charlene, I love how you said that you are just so excited to share this. When you find something good, I think that's human nature. When you find something good, you just want to share it. And I think that says a lot about these ladies, that they are willing to share their secrets and the things that they've loved. And also, it's okay to, also for selfish reasons, to reinforce your own health. Health coaches are 5 times more likely to reach and maintain a healthy weight. So it's health insurance right there. And also to be financially rewarding for helping others. We get paid really well for what we do. The company compensates us. We are a free health coach to our clients, but the company actually compensates us. So it's definitely worth our time and our energy. And I love that our company actually teaches healthy finances. So it's healthy body, healthy mind, healthy finances. When we have those 3 things in order, we're able to live a more of a stress-free life and be able to help other people because we're not so worried about our circumstances. Leaving a legacy and have fun. I mean, working with these ladies, it is just such a positive environment that I just absolutely love. A few questions. If you have any questions about what it involves to be a health coach, whether you need to be at your goal weight or how much time it takes or what training is involved, how to find clients, or even how we're compensated as health coaches, we actually do interviews to see if it's a good fit for people. So again, contact your health coach for more information on that. We want to make sure that everyone knows about the Spring Health Games that is coming up next week. This is for anybody and everyone of all, any program that you want to do, and just come sign on. Charlene, do you have any advice you want to give on that? Hold on, let me get you off mute. Okay, you're off mute.
Chantel, I am just so excited for the health games to start. So you do not need to be signed up specifically with a health coach to join in the Spring Health Games. And it's just really, it's a fun social game twist on getting healthy. So if you already have goals to drink enough water or get enough sleep or to exercise, those are some of the simple things that you will be getting points for in our Spring Health Games. You just click on the link. There's a link on my page, and I think there's a link on Chantel's page and Amber's page as well, to be able to participate. And you just put in a $20 ante and everyone wins. It's not that there's just one winner. Everyone wins. So they're going to be really fun. I hope everyone will join.
Absolutely. And again, that starts next week. So jump on that. Lots of fun videos and just the knowledge and education behind it. So I'm excited about that too. We've been waiting a while for these to start. And then just the last thing is I just want you to kind of go back to what we were talking about at the beginning is what your story would be. And, are you ready for this change? Is this something that you, as we've been talking, kind of think about the thoughts that have been going through your mind? Have you had thoughts of self-doubt? Have you had things that have been holding you back? Maybe you think, well, of course Charlene can do it, but I couldn't do it. Or maybe you think if Charlene could do it, I could do it. I don't know what your thoughts are, but whatever your thoughts are, I encourage you to express those and to find out, if this is really something that might be a good fit for you, or if not, hopefully this has inspired you just to take the next step in your health journey. Maybe it's just to drink more water tomorrow, and good for you. Whatever it is, we hope that this served you and that you are well on your way to good health. Charlene, do you have anything else you want to add?
I don't. I do want to thank everyone for coming. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, just let us know. We're here to help you guys with whatever your goals might be.
Thanks, you guys.